Welcome, folks. We are Grown A Geeks. This is episode 3 of Random Geek Chat. We will be talking about the casting of The Children of Blood and Bone. It was a book. It's now going to be a movie here very soon, and some casting announcements have been made, and we're going to talk about it. The book is by Gina Prince Bythewood. Joining me tonight.
The book is by Tomi Adeyemi.
I'm sorry?
The book is by Tomi Adeyemi.
Gina, correct.
She's
Gina
the
Prince
director.
Bythewood is the movie adaptation. She's the one handling the movie adaptation. Joining me tonight, we've got Miss Teresa. We've got Marvel's rival, RG Cashmere, on the end. Insert cool nickname, Miss Brandy, joining me. And as always, my man, Jeffrey JPNT17. I am Elder Geek Sam, and we are ready to talk about the casting. So, first off, this is a book that I have not read. I am in the process of reading. We'll get right into it because I do feel like I have to that part has to be mentioned if I'm going to have an opinion on the casting, because one of the things I mentioned personally was once I look at who the cast is, as I read through the book, that's going to be the people that come to mind that I try to picture in these different roles. So I wanted to get an idea of who the different characters were from the book before I saw who was going to be who. Now that I'm looking at this cast, I'm like, I bet that's going to be so-and-so. Oh, he's going to be this. And I'm able to kind of piece some of it together a little bit better. And it does bring up a question as far as what's the issue with the casting? Maybe the casting won't be that bad. I can kind of see the vision of what somebody was thinking with some of these people. I will need help with like who everybody is. Who has read the book? So our ladies have read the book.
I got 4 hours. I
got
about 60 pages.
Okay, that's what's up.
As a standard, I generally don't read the book. It's not anything against this book. I just never do.
Sure, Jeff. Sure, we know why.
The children can't eat no book, son.
No, I mean, honestly, there are certain situations where I think if you go in with the knowledge of the book, it will alter your perception of what you see, because it's a universally understood rule that the book is always better. You get more detail, you have more time with it, you can explore things a little bit better. You have a finite amount of time when it comes to a movie, and they got to get all of that stuff packed in. Sometimes there's a visual Easter egg, but you can't really deep dive like that when you do a movie. So I can understand Jeff's point with some things. It's probably better to go in and just see the movie.
I always would say that, because I mean, when you read the book, like you already have in your mind your perception of who that person is and what they look like and how they sound.
Yeah.
Although to be fair, it's kind of messed up because sometimes when you read the book after, you're like, well, that doesn't, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
I don't see you in this.
And that was the thing, because when it comes to casting, that's how typecasting happens. You know what I'm saying? People get associated with a particular character, and that stays with them until they can come up with another character or something like that. So when you have casting announcements and stuff like this, anybody who sees that this person's going to be this and that person's going to be that, and then they run and try to read the book before the movie comes out, they're already picturing these characters in that role.
Yeah.
And if you don't see full makeup, full costume, and everything that's going to happen to transition, sometimes you can that person can be misrepresented as that character.
Yeah,
and
for me, I think it's a matter of like my own personal inability to not compare. Like, even though everybody's always like, the book was better, I don't really want to watch a movie and my point of enjoyment be about comparing it to some other media that was created first. And I'm also one of those people where it's like, I have a very good memory. I've rarely watched many things over and over and over again, even though like I can recall a lot of details. I'm also like one of those people that's like very visual mentally. So when I'm reading a book, I'm like making my own mind movie in and of itself. And so then it's like, if stuff's not matching up, and it's just going to taint a movie experience for me. And I would just much rather just like be able to enjoy the movie. If I'm going to read the book, I'll read it afterwards. But I had two experiences in the theater, both Hunger Games movies, where the first Hunger Games movie I went to see opening night. My wife read the book, she loved them, so I was like, all right, we in there. And the whole movie, there's a lady behind me that's like trying to explain to her friend who everybody is as we're watching the movie. And I'm doing the like just look over my shoulder thing. And I was literally just got to a place where I was like, if this lady say one more thing, I'm gonna flip this movie theater inside out. But she finally saw one of my glances and she like shut up for the rest of it. But then in the I don't know if it's the second one or the third one, whichever one Lenny Kravitz dies. Like my wife remembered what was about to happen right before it happened, and she's like, and I'm like, well, I don't know what it's about to happen, but something bad's about to happen. And now
something bad is about to happen.
I don't get that same experience of like the shock of watching him get dragged away because I've already been queued up for it. And so for me, point of enjoyment, I just like to just go into the movie almost completely like fresh in terms of not knowing anything about the story or the characters a lot of times in and of itself.
Gotcha.
Now,
I think for me, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead, Brandy. What is?
Oh, I was just gonna say for me, I don't mind because usually I've usually read the book and like as long as they tell the story, like as long as there's nothing in the movie where I'm like or if somebody came along with me, kind of like the point you made about Superman and Batman, as long as the person with me, I don't have to turn to them and go, okay, so the reason they did that is because. You see what I'm saying? So as long as it goes along with the story and the characters and everything, and like with Harry Potter, and that is you can't tell all of Harry Potter. You have to, you know what I mean? Like Lord of the Rings, you're not going to tell everything that happened in that book. My goodness. 14 movies.
You got to break down.
You tell the story. You know what I mean? Like you tell an efficient story. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
And to piggyback off that, kind of in the same vein, the one thing about a really good book, and I think I appreciate about a really good book, is how well you write it. It's not necessarily the visual of what the character looks like. It's the visual of what they're going through. It's the visual of the story. Like I want to see the experience. So I remember I read Ready Player One before the movie, and Ready Player One is a book. I mean, is vivid. It is great. It is a gigantic nostalgia build. Like it's so much, for a 70s, 80s baby. There's just so many references in that book. And I went and saw the movie, and the movie there's so many, different cuts and different ways that they, varied from the book. That the thing that made it that I can still appreciate the movie for was that visually it still carried the spirit of the book. Right. So the book was written so well that really all I wanted to see was a character go through that situation. And so, and then same with Lord of the Rings, and all those, like Brandy said, the books they're dense, they're dense. But Peter Jackson did a really good job at sticking to the heart of the story and then keeping the characters as they were. Like everything, even when he subbed lines from other characters who were not in the movie with other characters, and even at times when it didn't happen, it worked because it kept the heart of the movie, the point of the movie. And so I feel like with this, like it's very possible, it's very possible. I could read the book and get an understanding of what I feel the characters could look like, but I'm more concerned about what it is that they're doing, what they're going through. I'm seeing her fighting. I'm seeing her, I'm seeing them running. I'm seeing them do this. You can fill in the faces later. As long as I get to enjoy the story, that's more important to me.
Okay. That and all of those are, absolutely valid points. Teresa, book, movie, does it matter? Is it two separate stories, same story? What's your thoughts?
I'm not having like a real problem with it, with comparing. So I'm assuming for myself that it doesn't matter, as long as it's a good story either way. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be the same story, exactly the same story, like Wicked. I enjoyed the book. I enjoyed the stage play. I enjoyed the movie. And it's okay that they weren't all exactly the same. Because they were all good. I'm a big Stephen King reader. He's my favorite author. So every time they do a movie or TV adaptation, I'm going to be there. And I don't expect it to be exactly like the book. You can't make a movie that's exactly like the book, because like Brandy said, you need 14 movies to tell the whole book. Stephen King, man, The Stand, Under the Dome, those books were like literal thousands of pages long. So it's the movie.
They did a mini series of The Stand and still didn't.
Exactly. It's not going to be exactly like the book. So, I mean, I'm okay that they're not the same. And I read Children of Blood and Bone, and I don't even know that I knew it was going to be a movie at that point. I don't even know how I got onto the hype of the book. But, I was right there when it came out, and I read it audiobook. I could still consider that reading. I've listened to it like 3 or 4 times.
Especially if you get it unabridged. Like
right, and that's the thing. I always get unabridged, and I don't use my credit unless it's at least 8 hours long. I'm not using my credit on a short story.
Y'all heard me complaining about my 17-hour books. I'm like, I need something longer. This ain't getting it. I'm finishing books in like 2 days.
17, the one I'm listening to now, I really wish it would end, but
that's the downside to books.
Right.
Sometimes they be long.
It was like 21 hours, and I'm like, what the hell?
What more needs to be said?
You could have ended several times.
I got you.
It's the omnibus. It's the whole trilogy in one book. That's how.
But I mean, even I've read the book. I'm still excited about the movie. I don't expect it to be exactly like the book because they rarely are. But it'll just be a different experience. Unlike Jeffrey, who says he has a very good memory, so it would probably be hard to enjoy the movie when you remember every aspect of the book. I have a terrible memory. And even though I read the book, I'm probably just going to remember like the gist of the story.
Right.
I'm not going to remember all of the details. So, it's not that big a deal if the movie doesn't follow exactly.
Yeah, now, I'm planning to reread. I'm traveling next week, so I was like, I need to. It's been like I remember,
a little fresh up.
Yeah, I need a little dust up.
Now, for me, as long as the spirit's the same, I'm good. And I think that's the general consensus we have here. If the spirit of the story remains, obviously some things have to change when you put it in a visual medium versus words on paper. And some stuff, it's just practical effects and even special effects. It has to make sense. And when you're watching a movie, it has to flow a certain way. So I think that's why there's always the movie adaptation. This was a book. It is now a movie. Some things are going to change. There are times I do find that I'm more accepting of changes being made in books than I am with like when they do the anime to live action, when they do cartoons to live action, when they do comics to live action. I'm a little bit more strict there for some reason, even though it's still a written medium going to a live action. The anime, I think, I don't know.
Because
the
you already
anime
have
was
the
good.
visual?
Right. Like the anime is there. Just make people do that. That's what I'm wanting. When you have something where there is no, and maybe that's what it is, because there is already a visual, my expectations are set. And that's kind of why I was like, well, let me at least get into this book before. Since I got into the book and I know some of these names and some of these characters and who they're going to be, let's do a quick rundown of who's who and what is supposed to be. I think I have it up here to say who's supposed to be who. So let's bring the players up to the stage. Clockwise from top left. Thuso, Imbedu,
yes,
Amandala, Stenberg, Damson Idris, Tosin Cole, Idris Elba. How you say this one, Jeff?
Chiwetel Ejiofor.
There we go. Viola Davis and Cynthia Erivo.
Yes.
Now, the movie adaptation, Children of Blood and Bone, um, the character in the book, Zeli, is going to be Thuso. The character Amari will be played by Amandala. And then Inan will be played by Damson Idris and Tosin Cole as Zane. Rounding out some of the characters that I've already kind of been familiar with, we have Viola Davis, who's going to play Mama Agba, and Admiral Kea will be Cynthia Erivo, which fits perfectly. And then we have Idris Elba as Lakin. They also have Lacan. They also have Lashana Lynch as, this is a character I haven't come across yet, Jumoke, and Mr. Ejiofor as King Saran. Just based on what little I've gotten from, was that?
I'm sorry. I'm just like, yeah, I can see it.
Just what I've gotten from the little bit of story I've read so far, this is actually spot on casting. So like when I look at Viola Davis, that's perfect. That's perfect for who she's supposed to be playing in this, because I need it to be somebody who. So let me see if I can find a quick synopsis of the story, because I think that might be something that a lot of people may not be aware of. And that will kind of help explain why some of this casting is accurate, because this is actually seeming like this is going to be a nice little bit of action in this movie. The story has a lot to do with the Magi and the loss of magic in their world as a result of the actions of the king. So Jeff, right off the rip, he's your bad guy. Ejiofor is going to be your bad guy,
of course,
and it works because he has a very punchable face, and I just see him being the kind of king that you want to see him fail. You know what I'm saying? And I think that will work out very well. Now, the importance of the different characters, it's been like 11 years since the magic left the world, and the people who have all white hair are the Magi. They're, I think they have another name for them. They're known as the Magi because they're the people, of course, who have the option to use magic.
Diviners?
That, of course, just repeat that.
Diviners?
Diviners. That's the word I'm looking for. Without giving away too much, the magic's been gone for a while, and you get reveals of different characters and different things happen. The magic is making a return, and it does seem like there's going to be a good bit of, hey, Akil. Hey, is that Woody? What's going on, brother? How you doing, man? The magic is making a return, and there's going to be a battle, obviously, because you have those who have and those who have not. The have-nots are the people who lost their magic, and they've basically been put under thumb, and they've been oppressed, and they've been pushed down. And then you have the royal family, and the royal lineage, the upper class, who still get to enjoy all the different luxuries. And literally, they call the diviners and the Magi, they refer to them as maggots. They have like no respect for them. Right down to the point where they've been oppressing the magic. I don't want to give away too much, because I will say what I'm reading so far, I really seem to enjoy. And I know there's more than one book, so I'm gonna get to the other books as well. But based on everything from the characters, the only thing that I would have thought initially, like reading who's who, okay, Ejiofor being the king makes sense, because initially I thought that's who Idris Elba was going to play, just by the way they describe like how powerful the king is and whatnot. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. And now I'm looking at him like, no, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's actually better casting, because just a little bit they've talked about the king in the book and I didn't like him. So, I was like, yeah, that's perfect. That works out really well. Even in the book, there does seem to be some talk and conversation regarding colorism. And
Which is where all of the controversy around the casting right now is coming from.
Right. And
and
the
if you
funny
look
thing
at this
is,
image.
But see, that's what's really, really funny is because I think a lot of this outrage is going to be, let's come back to us. I think a lot of this outrage is going to be, one, a lot of people who haven't read the book. And then there's going to be some people who may not accept the one or two of the details being changed. And looking at the cast, I kind of see the consistency of what they're doing here. And I'll just put this one part out. Princess Amari in the book is referred to, they do make it a point to talk about her being a darker skinned girl. But then I'm also looking at who they have cast as the king. And honestly, it looks like what they're doing is kind of a reverse colorism based on the information from the book, because there's a section where the daughter or the princess is talking with her mother, and they're making references to the other daughter being lighter complected and how they put all this makeup on the darker daughter to make her look light as she was presenting her to the court. Or like, I guess like a little tea party or whatever they were having, but she's sitting there at the table, there's other people there, and she had all this makeup on to make her appear light. In this case, it seems like she ultimately, the point comes down to her complexion stands out against everyone else.
Right.
So if you have this,
but what does it matter?
If you have this one lighter complected person standing against all these darker complected people, it's going to have the same effect.
Right. It's consistent with the story.
And what you thinking, Jeff? Talk to me.
I get what you're saying. But I think like maybe within a vacuum of like, well, she just needs to look different, then okay, I would be like, fine, she just looks different. But I think it's just interesting that like there's always so much controversy around any role that a man takes. People didn't read the Hunger Games the right way, and they were confused why she was cast in the Hunger Games, and then people had to go back and read the book and point out in the book that basically all the people from this section look like this, not just her. Maybe y'all skipped over that, and in your mind movie, you made everybody's
Caucasian.
But like that is not the intent. And so I'm sorry that like you can no longer feel sympathy for her and Rue because you made her a little white girl in your mind, but Rue is always black, and that's something you have to unpack for yourself. She's come out and talked about the fact that she was asked to play Shuri in Black Panther, and she pulled out of that. She took herself out of contention because she felt like being half white and being light skinned, it would not be an appropriate role for her to take and be a part of this Wakandan world. It don't make sense because who the daddy, right? So when I think about that, and then I think about this, and the book again, when a book I feel is explicit about describing a character, especially in the space where we are, where we constantly have to deal with people who complain about people getting cast as black that were previously other races and all these things like that. We always go back to, is this person's color being written as an integral part of this character's story and who they are? I haven't read the book. I'll leave it up to the people who have read and are reading the book to educate me on whether her having to be darker is important. But I just look at it and I say, how is Amandla and Damson Idris brother and sister? Unless she's playing and how can we be mad? How can we be mad at Zoe Saldana for playing Nina Simone, and then we just look at this and we're like, we can just switch something. Now they might switch some stuff up from the book, but it just, from what I have read, it does seem like a strange casting. And even when you had that picture up, she stands out across everybody else in that image who pretty much, outside of like Viola Davis, they're all like African and West Indian immigrants to England. And so they have they're probably like first, second generation. A lot of those actors, because I've followed them and seen them in other things. I mean, even us trying to get through the names tells us they have a little bit more of a connection to the continent. So, when I read Chiwetel Ejiofor and then it's like Amandla Stenberg, it's like, oof, that feels like a jump. This is not about her acting ability. I think she's a phenomenal actress. I think that she gets a lot of stick and unfair stick because everything that I've ever seen her in, I think she's done a phenomenal job and brought a lot to the role. But in terms of the casting and even the hoops that they seem to jump through, having like an open casting call, I get why a lot of the darker people in the diaspora and the people back on the continent are looking at this like this is supposed to be this story about. We felt like this was like our story, and then when we look at this character, like Sam says, this for I think a lot of people in their mind movies is like a stark contrast from how they pictured the character. And that's I mean, like I said, I haven't read the book, so I'm definitely open to be educated and all that, but that's just kind of what I picked up on from like kind of the feelings about her specifically
Right.
being casted.
Yeah, and it is a very accurate complaint. And for those people who are sticklers that every detail has to be exactly like the book, it's not. And that's going to piss some people off right there. And they're going to be up in arms right because of that. Given that we have a situation, and this is the part that I think stands out for me. And this is just to play a little bit of devil's advocate. There's literally a line in the book where they do make reference to the questioning of the parentage of the princess because she doesn't look like her siblings. Now, in that case, the other siblings were lighter complected, but what I have not gotten was an accurate description of what the dad looks like, other than he's like this big hulking, like really strong king and whatnot. And of course, the son, who's like captain of the guard. You get a fairly decent description of his physique, and that in comparison, he is lighter complected than his sister. That almost brings the question to say, well, in the book, are we did anybody have a problem in the book with all the royalty being lighter complected? Was that an issue? Did that come up?
No, but I mean, also lighter complected could be like the difference between like me and Cynthia, me and like Jodie Turner Smith. Like, I am still like visibly like black when you look at me, right? I'm darker than Amanda. Like, everything's on a spectrum, right? I think the issue is more about people looking at it and saying like, we live in a world that, at least from my perspective, I'm not going to speak for everybody on the panel. We live in a world that is fairly anti-black, and generally when we have conversations about colorism, it is lighter tones being seen as the positive and darker tones being seen as the negative. And Hollywood has been a major perpetrator in that message. So I think a lot of people are kind of just frustrated for this, feeling like it could possibly fall along those same lines. Go ahead, Brandy. My bad.
I would feel that way if every other female lead in the movie wasn't dark skinned. The colorism of the castle wasn't about whether or not the daughter was dark skinned. It was about the colorism. So if it's reversed, it doesn't take away from the story told, right? Which
Right.
is that she looks different. It shouldn't matter. Like if her brother was Michael Ealy and her dad was El DeBarge and she was a darker skinned girl, it's still the same dynamic, just in reverse. So if in this story, her difference is that she's lighter than everybody else. I think that's okay. She's not the hero of the story. It's not
No.
like she's the lead and this movie is all about her.
Yeah, she's supporting
Again, if that
cast.
was the case, I would be like, okay, maybe I feel a way about it.
Mhm.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But this is
And
like a Thelma Louise situation. It's not like she's the focus, and so now she has to be light skinned. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Teresa, I saw your hand a moment ago. What's up? Yeah.
I think it's interesting because at least a couple of times in the book, they emphasize how dark Zaylee's skin is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's interesting that, and I don't know, I didn't even hear people complaining about Amanda. I'm not surprised because they often do. But I think it's interesting that nobody is complaining about the fact that in the book, Zaylee is the picture that I get from reading the description in the book is like a Jodie Turner Smith,
Yeah.
or
Mm-hmm.
you
Like
know,
that model.
Yeah, she
Like
has
that
that
beautiful model.
chocolate.
and yeah, like
Yeah.
Kenyan Sudanese dark is what I'm picturing.
Yes.
And Thuso, though she is absolutely gorgeous and a wonderful actress, I love her. I think it's interesting that we're not getting complaints that she's not dark
Dark
enough
enough.
as
Yeah.
the description of Zaylee in the book.
Mm. Can I ask a question to y'all who are familiar with that portion of the book? Does the fact that she's that dark come into play with her story? Like, is she treated anyway because she's more dark? Like, is that crucial to her story?
If anything, the fact that she's magi and has the white hair, which is like an immediately identifying mark for the diviners, that's probably the bigger visual aspect of it. And honestly, I would say I haven't gotten far enough in to be able to say for certain, but from what from where I am, I want to say I might be chapter 7, 8. No, excuse me, I'm chapter 10. I was like, I want to read this, and it got good, so I didn't turn it off. But yeah, like if it's a reminder, the village, the captain just got to the village, and so at that point I was like, oh, what? Okay, next chapter, and so that's kind of where I've been with it. Honestly, I think a lot of it is going to just be some general colorism conversation, in my opinion. I think it's one of those things where if we play devil's advocate, I love the beauty of all of these chocolate complexions on screen and not necessarily because I don't feel like that's something we get to see quite as much. There's always a nice little sprinkle. And
Every time it's our movies or us leading something, it is literally always a problem. It's a problem. Any of the movies that come out that are about us that aren't, 12 Years a Slave, somebody's complaining. It's just always some reason to complain. And I honestly feel like this is a readless. Oh, it's just and I'm like, and this babe, I know she's not a baby anymore, but she's been catching hell since she was a baby. I know she like, I don't even want to act no more, bro. Because every daggone thing I do, everything I do is just, she's too dark for Star Wars. She's too light for this. She's too dark for Rue. She's too, dang, like, what is she supposed to do? Seriously, what role is the role that she can take?
Right.
Right.
Like,
I don't have an issue. I don't have an issue with so the colorism aspect of things. I don't even fucking pay attention to. If it's not us having that conversation, then it's just like Charlie Brown.
You don't have the
teacher
capacity.
talking, right? I'm like, shut the fuck. What are you talking about? How would you know whether or not that's too light or not? What the fuck is you talking about? Right. So, and I don't think that's right. Like, I don't think we're going to make that an issue about she's this shade lighter and all this other shit. Like,
I mean, be pissed off about it. Just go see the movie and see if it made a difference.
I gotta be honest. As far as I'm concerned, this movie is one of those movies that if you
black sci-fi,
right? All right. But if you black, you gotta go see this movie. Okay.
Yeah.
The primary reason and the importance of this movie is that this is, it's loosely based off like Yoruba traditions and Yoruba mythology, and this is us. Like, this is black people from Africa. Like, this is our descendants. This is our mythology. Like, we know Thor, we know Zeus, you know what I'm saying? But we don't know Ogun, you know, we don't know Olendari. We don't know our own, you know what I'm saying? Our own culture. And I love the fact that, like, the cities are called Orishas, you know, and I love that twist on it. Like, is it no, but it's the spirit of, like, we gotta show out for this movie. Like, we really gotta show out for this movie. Like, whatever people are saying about the casting is ridiculous. Like, God damn, let them make the movie. Don't like them after the movie. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, shut up. Will Smith, okay?
Sneak peek,
and the author was
nothing.
literally there. She was there, involved in the casting. If she doesn't have a problem with it, then I certainly don't have a problem with it.
There you go. There you go.
It's not like how I had such a problem with The Witching Hour. The reason I had a problem with that show is because the way these characters look is integral to the story.
Right. Now that did make a difference.
People look a certain way because of this. So you can't be switching stuff around because then it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? This is not, I don't feel like this is like that.
Right. But there is a slight little bit of hate on poor Amandla. Now, I'm sorry. Now, I'm going to agree with Jeff. She's a great actress. I just saw The Darkest Minds. Like, this is the first time I've seen that movie. I saw it last night. It was absolutely great. The only thing that she ever did wrong in that movie was due to bad writing, not bad acting. She killed the role. It was great. I enjoyed the whole movie because of her. So I give it to her on that one.
Also a good book.
Oh, okay, dope. All right, that's something you got to check out now. So the thing is that the thing that I noticed in that movie about her, which is the same reason why I didn't like her in The Acolyte, she don't do expressions well. Her face is, she easy to draw. Like, her face, and like, she cried. This girl cried. But it was like, and I'm not asking for Viola Davis type, you know, expression when you cry, but, you know, can your cheeks do a little something? Her face.
Are we talking Kristen Stewart levels of not acting?
I mean, you know, Kristen is bottom. That's right. She's taking asthma pump hits before every word. So no, she's definitely not that bad. So, but it sucks because I could easily see her playing a princess. I'm not gonna lie. Like, the princess role for her is a great role. You know, just give us some expression, sweetheart. Just practice. Do the exercises. Just give us a little bit more. That's all I want to see from Amandla. But go show out. Make your black friends feel bad for not seeing this movie when it comes out.
Yeah. And if nothing else, I'm kind of interested in it with Gina Prince Bythewood, Woman King, Old Guard, but also Love and Basketball. So I mean, it could go either way.
Why did you say but? Love and Basketball? Wait a minute.
Because that movie's garbage.
Because we had a whole full-on discussion.
You need to watch last week's episode.
Yeah, go check out the other episode where we broke
Yeah,
down Love and Basketball.
Looks like
You're talking about the Sanaa Lathan, Love and Basketball.
Talk about bad movie
missed out.
tropes.
You should have been there.
So check that one out. But I just wanted to throw that in as I was looking at it earlier, and I was like, you know what, that's too funny. But yeah, I do think that this is a story that's going to have a good bit of action. There's going to be some fantasy. It's a fantasy realm, magic. It's there, and I'm very interested to finish this book, and I'm very interested to see this movie when it comes out. I look forward to it. Any final thoughts? Anything else anybody want to say before we head out?
Just super, super, super excited that this movie is being made. I'm so excited. I'm just it's just such a cool thing to be being made. I can't wait to see it. You know, like I want to see so much.
Yeah,
I can't wait to see how they bring it to life.
And that original graphic that I saw of the casting, I mean, it was just awe-inspiring. We talk about the spectrum. We talk about, you know, all the shades or whatever. It was just, you know, it was like a a box of chocolates.
Ah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
facts.
it's there.
I'm gonna see it, you know, and I, you know, I'm not,
You gonna see
I
it.
don't want to sit in here and make it seem like I'm a curmudgeon, and I'm not boycotting. I don't think I'm seeing anybody call for like boycotts because of Amanda's casting. I think I do understand maybe some people's disappointment who might have read the book, identified with that character, not just
Mm.
on a personality level, but also reading a character that they feel is physically described like them, and then the excitement of hearing that the
Absolutely.
movie is going to be made, and you thinking that like you're gonna get this beautiful dark chocolate representation of the character that you connected with, and then they bring in like some German chocolate, and you're like, huh.
It's a lot of
I
coconut in
wasn't.
that
I
chocolate. Like
wasn't. I
German
wasn't
chocolate.
expecting that. I
a
need
lot of
some
lot of
time to
coconut on
like.
this cake, but
I need some
I'm
time
with
to
you.
process it, and it doesn't help that it's kind of like the same culprit that you always kind of see in the middle of kind of conversation. And I don't mean culprit as in like she's culpable, but just in terms of like she seems to be just like the center of conversation whenever it comes to
Everything she does.
casting.
Yeah.
And
If
she's
she goes
very
to the
talented.
bathroom, she's
Yeah.
something's going on with her colorism.
Yeah, she's super talented. She's a very good actress. And even going back to what Brandy was saying before, is like, what is she supposed to play? I personally feel like the reason why it's always controversy is because there are not enough roles written for a diverse swath of like types of black women. And so when Children of Blood and Bone comes out, I'm sure every black actress in Hollywood had their agent on the phone trying to get
Thanks.
involved in this. And when you're the movie studio, as the writer of the book is there, and as much as I want to like believe this is a world where she could put her foot down and say no, the reality is if the studio is like, we bought the rights to your movie, Amanda's attached, she's gonna put a certain demographic in the seats that is familiar with her, because we are casting relatively unknown for your like major protagonists. There oftentimes are concessions that have to be made when dealing with major productions. So I think everybody is kind of fair in where they land. If I had read the book and based on the excerpts that I read about her physical description, if somebody came to me and was like, "We're thinking about Amanda," I'd be like,
Did
"Have
you
you
read the
read the
book?
book?"
No,
but
and that's fair. And that is fair.
It's very
And
fair.
but I don't think it's
I'm
enough to
like,
like
well,
go
let's
off
see
the deep
why
end. And
though.
yeah,
They can't just make this change, right? And not necessarily change anything else.
yeah.
So
And the other thing I wanted to say too is just like when I made a comment earlier about vacuum, and it's like if this was just a thing of like colorism is not like a real thing in our world and it doesn't always go one way, a certain way, then I'd be like, all right, cool, switch it around. It doesn't really matter. But the fact of the matter is like colorism generally tends to go one direction. You know what I'm saying? You look up the numbers on like skin whitening, like make
here, but maybe not there. Like
no
if a
skin.
light-skinned person came to Wakanda, do you think that they would be elevated above everybody else in Wakanda?
No, this is what I was gonna say. Like the skin whitening industry there and in Asia is like gigantic. Like people like the bleaching creams and all that kind of stuff is like very, very, very
Now
over
though,
there.
this isn't taking place now.
I
This
mean,
is
it's a. I'm just saying because it was written by somebody who is alive now. So I don't even know what year it's set in. That's why I'm saying I'm hoping
horrendous.
to be educated. But
I'm
that's just my
joking.
whole point. It's like it's just one of them things where it's like, damn, like it starts feeling like when you watch like 90s sitcoms and like the black sitcoms always had that like one random white person. It's like, who is this white man that's like on this show with Patti LaBelle and Dwayne Martin
God
and
dang.
Vivica Fox? Like him, like we need a chaperone. And I'm not saying that's Amanda, but
No.
sometimes it
And
come off
again,
like
if
y'all
she
need a
was the
chaperone.
star
Right.
and if everybody else in that cast wasn't who they are,
Yeah,
I would 100% be like, this is an example of blatant colorism in Hollywood and whitewashing characters.
for sure.
But I can't say that
And I will
yet.
say, like
I
could
might say
definitely,
it later, you
Right.
know?
yeah, it's not to
I'm
say
waiting
I
for that. When you
reserve
see the
the
it
right.
is
movie,
time.
I
It is
reserve the right.
like, make me
January
big, Sam. Make
29th.
me big.
We just say as
Like
of
they might
January
come out with the trailer
29th.
and still be talking about her like she dark, and then I'll be like, "You wait a darn minute now."
Right.
You got
Like
it
if
on
they
tape.
go,
Here, dark
if
is
there's a
light and
line in the
light is
movie where they're
dark.
like her dark complexion, like who is you talking
When
about?
you go south of the equator, the color tones flip, and
Right.
Right. I mean, I don't, I listen. This is a sci-fi story. I don't know where,
Right.
how they
Fantasy.
will.
Yeah. The fantasy
Yeah.
All
realm
right.
and stuff.
Yeah, hell yeah. Hell yeah. All right. So I guess I'm crazy hyped for this movie. Like I'm a really big stickler for the fact that we need to tell our own stories. I don't want a black person replacing the role of a person that was written of a particular race that wasn't black. I don't want it. I don't want to see. I don't want it. I don't care for it. Because I don't want the thing that I relate to be their story. I don't want it to be their story. We have our own stories.
Right.
There were darn near 400 like lesser deities in that whole mythology. Our whole that mythology is rich, and there were plenty of stories to tell. There were so many opportunities for us to present ourselves as heroes, as just ingenious. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. No, I'm not. I'm just losing my word. But there are so many opportunities for us to really present ourselves in so many various lights. We have so many stories, and those stories need to be told. And
Yes.
like Teresa said, seeing that poster is just wow. Like, yes. And there's a reason. You don't even have to fucking explain it to anybody. Like, why would there be a white person in this movie, right? Like, I don't expect to see a black person in Greek mythology movies, okay? I'm totally all right with that. And you ain't going to be in ours. We got our own story, so I want to see those. Like, those are the things that I want to see, because those are the things that I think that the youth needs to grow up on, and we don't have to fabricate a pride. We know where our pride comes from because we have these stories that got stolen, but we know them now. You know what I'm saying? Now here's our chance. So just
and
go
keep David Oyelowo far away from all of this.
He's in this.
He gonna be reading.
He
He's
got
the
an African
narrator.
last name, so it's cool. But when we start telling more cowboy stories, keep your ass over there in England, bro. And civil rights and rap and stay over there, bro.
Let's see.
He kicked him out the movie quick.
We got beef.
Join us next time on Geek Chat, Random Geek Chat. This was our Random Geek Chat where we talked about the casting for the upcoming Children of Blood and Bone. Check out the book if you like. If you're like some of us and you want to get the book out the way before the movie, have at it. If you want to take Jeff's approach and go in completely fresh, don't read synopsises, because I was reading a synopsis that I was going to read out, and I've already spoiled something from the damn book. So
No.
yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine because I'll get back into it and forget. But those things happen. So proceed with caution. We're not going to spoil it for you here. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. Make sure to like and subscribe. Follow us everywhere you see GrownAGeeks. You know what? I don't have our QR code. Bam! Right there over RG. Be sure to scan the QR code. That'll take you where you can find us. We thank you for watching this. For Teresa, RG, Brandy, Jeffrey, I'm LD Geek Sam, and we are out of here. Peace.